Okay, so Revelation chapter 13. Hopefully, we'll cover, start at verse 11, and we'll finish out chapter 13 today. And in there, remember, we are about midway through the tribulation period. As I mentioned before, that we'll get to the mark of the beast today, hopefully. And where we've just been, if you remember that with the woman and the dragon, and we determined that the woman was Israel, and we won't delve back into that, but the dragon was there to kill the child when he was born. We believe that represents Jesus. Remember, this is still vision type stuff, and Revelation usually is pretty clear about that. Not that everything is easy to discern, but we know when he's given this kind of exactly what he's seeing, and then we know when it's more of a vision type thing. And so we were told that in chapter 12 because the way that it's presented there is the sign in the heaven, or that was chapter 12. And then the dragon pursued the child. And remember, this is halfway through the tribulation when the abomination of desolation was set up in the temple. The Antichrist finally made it into Jerusalem. Now he's really, you see who he is. He's running the show now. Before, remember, he was not forcing himself on the world, but he was just a guy with solutions. I think Jan Markell, if that's how you say her name, calls him Mr. Fix-It. In other words, he provides a solution for all the crazy stuff that's going on in the world, and the world wants him. And so then at this time also, he begins to pursue Israel. Remember, he's thrown out of heaven, no access. He's already been thrown out of heaven in the past, but now he has no access to heaven to accuse the brethren. And now he is pursuing Israel with outrage. He's also going to pursue anyone that believes. And Israel is protected. They're in hiding. The Antichrist now has stepped into power. And we kind of looked at this last week we get a glimpse of our enemy. Remember, we talked about that if you want to have victory, whether that's an athletic competition or whether that's a war, you need to know your enemy. And so through all of this, we get to know our enemy a little bit better, his power. And so this whole thing of we're not waiting until the war begins halfway through the tribulation, but the war has already begun. In fact, it's been going on since creation. And so if we want to win, we must be able to acknowledge, recognize that we're in a battle. Have y'all been more alert to that? Do you notice when things come along where you might, this is spiritual warfare? You might not have recognized it before, that you are more in tune, more alert to fight back. And the only way you can fight back, that is in prayer and with the word and putting your trust in Jesus. And so, and then help will come. That's what we're promised. Help will come. And so that was one of the things we gained from last week. And today we're carrying on with kind of the rule and reign of the Antichrist, because now everybody knows who he is and they don't care. Basically, this is Satan's man, and he has power, and he is intelligent, and he has answers, and we don't really care who fixes it. Just fix it. Take care of things. And so he's definitely in power, and now he's going to have a helper come alongside that's going to be visible. And so this is he is also called the beast, second beast number 2. And a lot of times when we talk about this today, we will identify beast number 2 as he's identified later in Revelation, and that is as the false prophet. And so that's what we're going to run in today is the second beast, or the second prophet, the prophet of the beast, and that he is, my way of remembering him, he's a powerful, religious, scary guy. And that he is going to be powerful, kind of like the Antichrist is powerful. But now we're going to see 2 aspects of power that are needed to rule the earth. And you see this we take this back a lot of times back to all the way back to Nimrod and Semiramis and the Tower of Babel, and the three that were there that were kind of an unholy trinity. And we see in most rulers, despots, rulers, that the people that try to take over the world, they almost always incorporate religion in it. Sometimes it's a perverted version of Christianity. Sometimes it's just something else. And so we're going to see that a little bit, get a flavor of that today. So with that in mind, that the false prophet of the Antichrist, he is going to speak for, he's going to point people to the Antichrist. He is going to he may not start off like this, but he's going to steer everyone towards all the way up to worship of the Antichrist. And he's going to be very prophetic in the way that he does things. So, Garrett, if you'll start us out there with verses 11 to 15, chapter 13. We'll dig in.
Then I saw a second beast coming out of the earth. It had two horns like a lamb. It spoke like a dragon. It exercised all the authority of the first beast on its behalf, made the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast, whose fatal wound had been healed. And it performed great signs, even causing fire to come down from heaven to the earth in full view of the people. Because of the signs, it was given power to perform on behalf of the first beast. It deceived the inhabitants of the earth. It ordered them to set up an image in honor of the beast, who was wounded by the sword and yet lived. The second beast was given power to give breath to the image of the first beast, so that the image could speak and cause all who refused to worship the image to be killed.
Whoa, there's a lot here. Did I let you get all the way through there, Garrett?
Yeah.
Remember, when we speak about the Antichrist, when we think about some of the happenings, that these things do not take place in a vacuum. Is that there has to be a buildup for them. And so those are, when we see those things today, sometimes we get overly excited and we say, oh, the rapture is about to take place, or the tribulation is about to take place, and maybe all that stuff is. But really, all we can do is study the Word, understand, be alert, watch what's going on, and don't get too carried away. But at the same time, it should make us alert and make us aware of even those that this guy's not the Antichrist, because I see him and I see him for what he is. And the Antichrist, we will not be able to identify him at first while we're still here. But we can. John tells us that there will be many Antichrists, and just like that, there will be many false prophets. These attributes we see in false prophets, we will see in the false prophet, the second beast. And so there's a buildup. We'll see more and more of those guys running around, and we see a great impact they've had in the past. And so this false prophet, just like the Antichrist, comes from a long line of false prophets. And we're warned through Scripture, and Keith talks about this a little bit earlier along this line, we're warned through Scripture to keep an eye out for false prophets. They're not always obvious, but we need to, we test them. Here's the thing where you remember there's the verse in Deuteronomy, and we're told to test the prophets, and if what they say, they make a prophecy and it doesn't come true, it says, don't fear him. Now the prophet that is the true prophet is kind of like, respect him and fear him. But so many times false prophets, what I see is that people fear them. In other words, they give them too much respect. They give them too much credence when nobody is testing them. And some simple test we would see right away they're false prophets. A simple character test. Most of these false prophets fail in their character, which it's easy to see with a close examination, and most of them have no accountability. These false prophets also speak in a way that is contrary to the character and nature of God. And they speak not in line with Scripture. So we're told to test these guys. Now, you're also just supposed to test your teachers, even the ones you know and trust, like me. That means you're supposed to test me. You're supposed to see how I live. You're supposed to see if what I'm saying is true, and you're responsible to test it. So But these false prophets, and even a stronger measure, is what they say is in line with Scripture. You'll notice, along with a lack of true accountability, here's some things to look for in false prophets. They have really nice hair. Oh, no, just kidding. That's just me being jealous.
Skinny jeans.
They have a flesh focus. What?
Skinny jeans.
All right, okay.
That's Keith being jealous.
And I have none of those. That's it. See, they used to wear gold chains. They don't do that anymore. See, they change with the things going on. They also have a flesh focus, and they appeal to you through the flesh. You'll notice that that's a big avenue they run in. They have their self-promotion. They do a lot of self-promotion. They just have a wrong focus, and it says, "Do not fear them." So let's read a few verses just along these lines. To see and look at these guys that we have around now, it helps us to see more clearly what the false prophet's going to be like. Now, one thing about the false prophets that we have today, some of them may even do real miracles. Now, if they're doing real miracles and it's not in line with God, you know that guy is really connected to Satan. He has satanic power. Most of these guys don't quite have that. They have to fake their miracles. Now, many of them have been busted, and people refuse to admit it and acknowledge it. They've been investigated actually by the law, in that they gather and they have 1,000 people at this meeting, and there's people get out of wheelchairs and they do all this, and then they have another meeting somewhere else, and lo and behold, the same people show up in wheelchairs. They do the same, run through the same rigmarole. So we need to be alert. I'm not saying that God doesn't do miracles today, but God probably doesn't do it in the same fashion and fleshy fashion that these guys are doing. So we are not to fear those guys. So let's look at a few verses here. And it was Matthew 7:15-20, Bailey, and 2 Corinthians 11:12-15, Brady. So go ahead.
Be on your guard against false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravaging wolves. You'll recognize them by their fruit. Are grapes gathered from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? In the same way, every good tree produces good fruit, but a bad tree produces bad fruit. A good tree can't produce bad fruit, neither can a bad tree produce good fruit. Every tree that does not produce good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. So you'll recognize them by their fruit.
You know, one thing I think of, do you see love and humility, graciousness, yet strength, knowledge of the word, sticking to the word, teaching the word? Those are things we should see. Okay, Fred.
And I will keep on doing what I am doing in order to cut the ground from under those who want an opportunity to be considered equal with us in the things they boast about. For such people are false apostles, deceitful workers, masquerading as apostles for Christ. And no wonder, for Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light. It is not surprising then if his servants also masquerade as servants of righteousness. Their end will be what their actions deserve.
So these are people, did you hear what Paul said there? Claiming to be equal with us. That's not Paul being prideful. That's Paul stating, look, I'm an apostle appointed by Jesus. These other people that claim to be apostles, capital A, they're claiming something they don't have. So when somebody claims to be an apostle, we need to really find out what they mean by that. What do they mean by that? We need to get a definition from them, because they might be talking about, there's apostles that are like missionaries. They go out, they're sent out ones. That's what apostle means. But then there are the apostles, those that are appointed by Jesus, that were witnesses to Jesus and to Jesus' day, and they do miracles. So I'm not going to go to all those verses right now, but there are people that claim to be equal to the apostles of Jesus. And Paul's saying, that's the first thing you can know. When they're claiming to be equal to the apostles, then there's something off here. You need to be leery of them. So it's also, now this is speaking about people, you might automatically be identifying these people, false prophets, false apostles, with different cults. And that's true. That is one way we recognize the cults. But here's another thing, is that it's not just in cults. It says among us. So there will be people that arise up out of the church, the true church, and we still need to be alert, because they will start making outlandish claims and they will start taking power that is not theirs to take. So we need to be alert to them. And so take note that this man, the second beast, comes out of the earth. So man is out of the earth, out of the dust of the earth. So he is earthy. He's fleshy in the way that he functions and operates. Now, the Antichrist is also a man, but he said he came out of the nations and out of the sea of the people of the earth. So he also is a man, but this guy's a little different. He comes out of the earth. He's just a man, and there's a meaning to that of him coming out of the earth. So there's a few references to this false prophet that's here in Revelation 13. Let's just, here again, we get a better picture of him, but we also get a better picture of false prophets, of the ones today. We get a better picture of the false prophets today. We get a little bit of a glimpse of what the false prophet, the second beast, is going to be like, so that we have this clearer understanding. So, Lori, would you take Revelation 16:13, Micah, Revelation 19:20, Dan, Revelation 20:10. We may hit a couple of these verses again as we go through this.
Then I saw three impure spirits that looked like frogs. They came out of the mouth of the dragon, out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet.
So here's something about false prophets. You'll know this to be true. They say outlandish things. Follow some of the false prophets. They say outlandish stuff. They make claims they have no right to make. They have no power to make. They have no authority to make. And that is certainly the second beast. But it's also false prophets we see today. Michael?
But the beast was captured, and with it the false prophet, who had performed the signs on its behalf. With these signs he had deluded those who had received the mark of the beast, and worshipped its image. The two of them were thrown alive into the fiery lake of burning sulfur.
This guy has power. He actually, we see here in this section, we see there, he has real power. He called down fire out of heaven. You'll notice, go all the way back to Moses, and when God used Moses to perform signs, remember? The magicians, Pharaoh's magicians, did the same thing. It doesn't say they faked it. It said they did it. So I'm taking that literally. They did it. They had some power, but it was not from God. And they deceived. There is a power in the false prophet, and there's a power in the current false prophets. They have a power and a knack to deceive. And that's what their business is deception. And they're good at it.
And the devil who deceived them was thrown into the lake of burning sulfur, where the beast and the false prophet have been thrown. They will be tormented day and night forever and ever.
So there is a serious consequence for what these guys have done, how they have lived and how they have deceived not just God's people, but the people of the earth. There's a price to pay even for them deceiving non-believers. And the thing, he's like a lamb, so he's very deceptive, but he has two horns. Horns signify power. So what we think this is one, it's this tandem thing of political and military intrigue. That's one horn. This military might and political savviness of the Antichrist. But then the other horn is religious power of the false prophet. That religion is going to be used in conjunction with the political and military might of the Antichrist. Now, as I said, this is the way that people have done it many times in the past. And think of the control of religious systems in the world. Think of how much the religious systems control. Think of whether it's Islam. Think of even, no offense to anybody, I know it's dear to some people's hearts, but the Catholicism has some perversion of Christianity. Think of the control that Catholicism has over people, because if you need communion to make it to heaven. If you don't cooperate, I'm not going to allow you to partake of communion. And if you believe the traditions of the church on top of Scripture, then that's power, that's control. And most religious systems, including perverted Christianity, have this level of control. True Christianity must be perverted to be used like this to control people. You can't use true Christianity to do that. And with this control, you will find hatred and the flesh draped into religious terminology. So you think of combining the power. You've got to see what we're saying here. The power of the different religious systems in the world, wherever you live. If you live in Iran, if you live in China, if you live in India, if you live in Africa, there's different religious systems that dramatically control people. And so now you see why when you see a Christian pastor start to go off the rails, this is one of the ways he goes off the rails, right? Control, power, invested in a man. It is my opinion that this is one avenue where the Christian church went awry in the 300s, after the persecution, after Constantinople, that the system developed where it was no longer a plurality of leadership. Then you had one bishop in every city that ruled. That was not terrible, but not ideal. But you see where it went to, but that guy started having way too much power. Then they had the one guy in Rome that had all the power. And so you see where things went when they just got off the track a little bit. And it took years and years and years, but that's where it went to. So these are some of the things you can look for to see false teachers, false prophets. This is the direction it goes in. Now you think of combining all these world religions. I didn't even come close to naming them all, obviously, but think of combining them into one. Here, there's always an ecumenical, is that what you said? Ecumenical movement afoot, and there's official organizations tied in with the UN that are trying to make this happen, where there's just one religious system. And so picture one guy working to the top of that and being able also now give this guy bona fide power. Like he can actually perform miracles. He can call fire down out of heaven. And then he has that level of control that all these religious systems have, molded into one. He's at the top. Then over here, you have all the political systems and nations of the world. One guy moving to the top. Military forces. So now you have this tandem, the two horns of the Lamb, pretending to be something that he's not. All backed by the full knowledge. Notice this. This is necessary as we get into the mark of the beast, because of knowing who is submitting and who's not submitting. Notice the information necessary to pull off the mark of the beast and the control of watchfulness that is required. Combine that with both political, military, and religious systems. And now you have a powerhouse, that team of ruling the world. Now, then think of something like how AI can be used to manage that much information, along with financial control that is possible when you have a single digital currency. Now you've controlled the finances of the whole world, and one ideology, both political and religious, and all with one powerful, charismatic, Satan-possessed individual at the top. Are y'all getting a picture of how this takes place and how it all works together, and how God, the focus always is on the Antichrist. We have this other guy, this false prophet, who is a religious leader. Now, you hear all kind of guesses, don't you, of who's going to be the Antichrist. And those guesses are, I don't pay much attention to them. Now, sometimes we can say, oh, he kind of is sort of like an Antichrist, but I'm not going to call him the Antichrist because we're going to. And so I've heard people say, oh, the Pope is going to be the Antichrist. And I say, no, I really don't think so. Now, how about the false prophet? You could have a Pope-like figure be the false prophet with all this religious garb, religious power, religious control. I'm not saying that the Pope is going to be, I'm just saying that gives you a little bit of the flavor of who this person and what he's going to be like. Great respect from all over the world, the two horns of political and religious power. So, with that in mind, now listen, you think, well, sometimes we think, well, why even resist? There's going to be a one world type government. The other stuff's going to happen. No, we are called to resist this stuff. For instance, we see this stuff happening in our country. Now, it's going to happen, okay? But we work against it. We vote against it. We speak up against it. We don't just give in to that level of control over our lives. Now, is it going to happen? Sorry, it is going to happen. So we don't have to get all worked up, but we do fight and move against this. Jesus said, and this was in Jesus' day, it's still thousands of years, and that the 2,000 years, and the false prophet hasn't come, and the Antichrist hasn't come. But he says, beware of false prophets, wolves in sheep's clothing. That kind of reflects back to Revelation 19:20. Can we read that? Read that again? Who's up reading next? We'll just read it again. Who's next? Is that
Aaron.
Aaron? Will you read that? And then, let's see where we are here. And then, Max, if you'll take the Matthew 17:15-23.
But the beast was captured, and with it the false prophet who had performed the signs on its behalf. With these signs he had deluded those who had received the mark of the beast and worshipped him. Two of them were thrown alive into the fiery lake of burning sulfur.
Just because a guy is intelligent, because he's a great speaker, a motivator, a convincer, if he's the deceiver, that's harder to see. But we can look for that. Now, go ahead, Max.
Sorry. Matthew 7.
15-23.
Watch out for false prophets. They come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ferocious wolves. By their fruit you will recognize them. Do not pick. Oh, do people pick grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Likewise, every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, and a bad tree cannot bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Thus, by their fruit you will recognize them. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. Many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and in your name drive out demons, and in your name perform any miracles? Then I will tell them plainly, I never knew you. Away from me, you evildoers.
Okay, so there are false prophets and false disciples. They can be hard to discern. Jesus said, remember, they're saying to Jesus, didn't we say, Lord, Lord? Didn't we say we prophesied in your name? Didn't we do miracles? Didn't we cast out demons? And Jesus said, I never knew you. In other words, they were false disciples. So we don't have to accept every person that says they're a prophet or speaks or teaches. We have to test them, not just in what they say, but how they live. And the people that we don't know. You see, it's hard to test a guy that's coming over YouTube or over your radio or over TV. It's hard to test a character guy. That's why we have local bodies. We don't just get all of our stuff, our information, our church online or from television or radio or whatever. We have personal, in person, and then so that we're rubbing elbows with people and we can see the kind of life they live. You can't always tell by how they say it or what they say. That's what it's telling us. We can be deceived, especially in the mediums we're talking about. So it's not saying that we can't listen. Listen, pick out good guys. Listen, increase your knowledge. But be careful, is what it's saying. And don't just swallow hook, line, and sinker what is said. And even if the right things are said, it's pretty hard to test the fruit. And we're told to test the fruit. That means we need to have in-person, face-to-face teachers. Because we can test the fruit. Jesus said, test the fruit. How do we do that? We must see how people live. And people must be transparent in how they live. Not that anybody's claiming to live perfect, okay? That is not the case. It's not what we're talking about. But the fruit of their life. Are people producing fruit? So, and a lot of people are fooled by religious garb and religious power. Whether that's, as Keith likes to say, whether that's skinny jeans and nice hair, or whether it's a black robe, or whether, I'm not saying those things are wrong. I'm not. But don't be fooled by the appearance and the presentation of a person. And anytime there's sheep, if there are sheep, there need to be sheepdogs gathered with the sheep. We need to encourage that. Those that protect. Paul warned the Ephesian elders that wolves will come around, and he's telling the elders, wolves are going to come around. In other words, you guys are the sheepdogs. They're going to come around. You need to keep your eyes open, be discerning, know the word, see how people live, see what they're saying. And just because somebody comes in and we want to be nice and be accepting, yeah, we need to show love. We need to accept people, but we also need to pay attention and discern from what they say and how they live, and to protect the body. So let's take a look at a couple of these verses. Who's next? Is that you, Julie? 1 Timothy 4, 1 and 2. What's that?
Oh, sorry.
And Keith, Acts 20, 28 to 31.
The Spirit clearly says in the later times, some will abandon the faith, follow deceiving spirits and things taught by demons. Such teachings come through hypocritical liars whose consciences have been seared as with a hot iron.
So people are going to be claiming to be teaching the Bible and teaching the doctrine of demons. And they may not have horns coming out of their head or a red suit or a tail out the back, but they're teaching the doctrine of demons. If it's not in step with what the Bible says, it's a hard thing to accept. Man, these are just good people. They're like this. But no, you need to look a little closer, is what I say. Then Acts, who's that?
Me.
Keith?
Be on guard for yourselves and for all the flock, among which the Holy Spirit has made you overseers, to shepherd the church of God, which he purchased with his own blood. I know that after my departure, savage wolves will come in among you, not sparing the flock. And from among your own selves men will arise, speaking perverse things to draw away the disciples after them. Therefore, be on the alert, remembering that night and day, for a period of 3 years, I did not cease to admonish each one with tears.
So this is not saying, as a sheepdog, you growl at everybody that comes in at church that you don't know. Okay, that's not what it's saying. But you're discerning. You're discerning. And it's one of the basic tools that we use. It's Bible teaching and instruction against deception. So that's one of the best things we can do. Because Jesus said they will come. There will be false teaching. There will be the teaching of demons. There will be wolves. These people will come. Not when they come. It's not if they come, it's when they come. So a constant tool is teaching and instruction. That's not the only reason we do this, but that is one of the reasons we teach and instruct the Bible when we're together. But it's also, you have a responsibility. You have a personal responsibility. You can't just rely on sheepdogs. You too have to check for yourself, like the Bereans did. If you'll read that, Garrett, Acts 17, 11, 12.
Now the Berean Jews were of more noble character than those in Thessalonica, for they received the message with great eagerness and examined the scriptures every day to see if what Paul said was true. As a result, many of them believed, as did also a number of prominent Greek women and many Greek men.
We have the standard with which to test everything, along with the reality that we are spirit filled, and the Spirit teaches us, and what we receive must always be in line with the written Word of God, the Bible. That's one of our goals, and when we teach firm foundations, is to get to the gospel. That's one of we want to get to the gospel. That's where we're headed. But there's another benefit of the way is that we teach a general structure of the whole Bible, the great themes of the Bible, and that gives people discernment. Even a non-believer can teach them discernment to know if somebody's teaching, if it's conflicting with the Bible. They can have, that's conflicting with the theme of the punishment for sin is death, and the blood sacrifice. That doesn't agree with that, what they're saying. So we try to give principles that even the beginner can begin to discern for themselves if what somebody's saying is agreeing, or are they a false prophet. The false prophet, which, like I said, we're talking about the second beast, will use this religious unity and power and false teaching and miracles to point to the worship of the Antichrist. He's going to use all those things, all the things you see in false prophets today, false teachers today. It's going to be amped up, but it's going to be the same sort of things, and he's going to point worship to the wrong place. And he will set up an image to bow down to. This is not some primitive type of thing. It's unlike the images of the past. This image will seem alive. It will speak. It will have breath, and it will have intimate knowledge of each one to know if they're falling in line with bowing down to the image or not. You see, that's what it's saying, is that he will seem alive, this image, and he will have intimate knowledge of people if they are bowing down to him or if they're not. Now, again, we like to, we can't help but make guesses and do that, but that's what they are. So we all do that some, and we see how all of this, what we talked about, is possible with AI. Have y'all heard about Mark Zuckerberg's AI image? Have y'all recently, where he's developing an AI image of himself, and that all 70,000 plus employees are gonna have access to him, but it's not really him. It's an AI image that has been trained in speech patterns, sound, and knowledge, personality of Mr. Zuckerberg. I'm not making this up. You guys can check. This is currently going on. And so they'll have immediate access to the head guy. I mean, it's an image, though, is what it is. And so we see how we have technology today to pull this stuff off. Now, let's read these verses 16 to 17 of chapter 13.
16 to 17?
Yeah.
It has also forced all people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hands or on their foreheads, so that they could not buy or sell unless they had the mark, which is the name of the beast, or the number of its name.
So this is about halfway into the tribulation period. This is not something you have to be concerned about, accidentally getting the mark of the beast or something now. And so I'm not telling you if there's something that seems like the mark of this, that's just wrong for you to, participate in the financial systems that we're here. This is saying that it's wrong to participate and take the mark of the beast. We know that. Otherwise, you use your own discretion, up until that point. But if you're a believer, you won't be here at that point. All people will be forced to worship the image, as we just spoke about, and so this image will most likely be at the temple, an image of the Antichrist. This is a guess. It'll most likely be at the temple because the Antichrist he's going to step into the Holy of Holies. And each person will have to receive a mark on their forehead or their right hand. Now, to me, it's like the name of the Antichrist is the name of the beast on their forehead. This sounds like the 144,000. Remember, they were protected. They had the name of God on their forehead. The imitation. So this seems to be an imitation. But I guess they're giving you a choice, like it sounds like. You can have it either on the forehead or you can take it on your right hand if you would prefer. And the name the name of the Antichrist will be on them. If they do not receive the mark, then they will be killed. Now, possibly they can escape somehow from being killed immediately, but they're going to be basically be starved out because they can't buy or sell unless they have this mark. Now, we have so much of this system, these systems, it seems, already in place in our cashless, cardless purchasing power. Do y'all remember? I shouldn't bring this up probably because I don't know the details of it, but maybe some of you guys do. Remember the pilot that was shot down in Iran, and we were able to keep track of him. I don't know how true it. They said they even knew his heart rate and that kind of stuff from some satellite. So they had all kind of intimate details about this guy because maybe he had a chip, whatever. But that's just crazy that you could know that much about where somebody. And he's out in the boonies. I mean, out in the middle of nowhere in enemy territory. Still, they could track him and know where he was and know what his condition, know his physical condition. But there will be some level of that sort of knowledge about people. And you can see how we're always pushing to move in that direction. So I'm just saying there's technology is really on the way, or it's already here for these situations, both the image. You see that we have technology for the image. We also have technology for the mark of the beast. And there have been so many guesses as technology has advanced over the years. I can remember when I know this is dating me, but I remember when the barcode first came out on all this stuff, and that people were guessing that was the mark of the beast, and people would have the barcode on them, and you pass it under the thing. And people guess, and that's all these are. All this, though, the mark of the beast here is sensational enough. We don't have to sensationalize it. Is that this is crazy of where we are headed. And I think it's okay to make these guesses, but you need to know that's what they are. When I just told you about the image of how that would happen, I'd be making a guess. When I tell you about the mark, I'm making a guess. But it helps give us a picture of what things may be like. And something may come out next week or next year that we don't even know about yet, that what it really is. Something more sophisticated than what we already have. So, all of us know what's the mark, what's the number of the beast.
666.
Do y'all know how many times that's mentioned in the Bible?
666.
What? I think this is the only place I know of. Got pretty famous though, didn't it? It's like, but many horror movies have used this number, right? It's all over the place. The number of the beast. There's so much speculation here. It's also, if y'all are aware of whether this, I think Greek, Latin, Hebrew, that there's numbers associated with letters. And so people try to calculate the number of a name and how that matches. And people have matched that to different names from the past, like maybe Roman emperors or something, how they've matched that. And they say, well, he was the Antichrist. Well, he may have been a type of Antichrist, and he may have matched the number, but he wasn't the Antichrist because this is looking to the future, not looking to the past. So this numerology that's not made up stuff. It's real. But it's just used in the wrong fashion here when you say this is a specific emperor, leader, or whatever from the past that was the Antichrist. It's looking back rather than future, and if Revelation is taken literally, which we do, then this is looking to the future. So, what do we do with all this then? This knowledge that we just gained, that we reviewed. So let's read verse 18. We have a little bit of advice here from Revelation. So chapter 13, verse 18.
This calls for wisdom. Let the person who has insight calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. That number is 666.
So I read this and I'm going, does that mean that we're supposed to calculate it? And look at add up the numbers and see who comes to power? It could be an affirmation one day like that, but I don't think that's how we use it. Is that many people have noted that the number 6 falls short of the perfect number 7. Was 7 the number of God? We have 6 is the number of man. The very best that man has, even joined with the pinnacle of Satan's scheming and power, still falls short of God. Man's number still falls short of God's number. This fits with Satan's original temptation of Adam and Eve, that they could be like God. Look, you're so close. You're in the image of God. But even with eons of planning and technology development and satanic empowered intelligence, all fall short, even though it appears close. All fall short of God. This number of the Antichrist. It will all soon be shown to the whole world that there is no other God than the great triune God of the Old Testament and the New Testament. And every knee will bow and every tongue confess that he is God. Calculate that. Man is short of God, no matter where he turns and what power he gets from Satan. Wisdom tells us to have wisdom. Wisdom, according to Proverbs, is the fear of the Lord, not the fear of man. When we hear this number 666, it should not creep us out or impress us with the greatness of this future leader, but rather remind us of the greatness and the victory of God. For it is the number of man, and man will never be God. Remember Satan's original temptation to Adam and Eve? You can be gods. You can be like God. You see, it ties back to the whole storyline of Satan. So you go down to the DMV, you get your new license plate because you got a new vehicle, you get that thing back, and what if you saw 666 on that license plate? Oh, no. You should not be intimidated. You should not be fearful. It's just the number of man. Just the number of man. Don't be afraid of that. While numerology is a real thing, and it could be but it also, we could take it too far and trying to figure out something the Bible is not revealed to us. The Bible is not revealed to us who the Antichrist is. So this is not telling you to figure out who the Antichrist is. It's telling you to figure out who he is in the sense of he is a man, a Satan-empowered, super intelligent, powerful being, as Satan is, but he's just a man. You do not need to fear him. And you will not figure out the specific identity of the Antichrist. It's again looking at the tree so close we miss the forest and we miss the point of this passage. Calculate, figure out in man's wisdom. Is that what it's saying? Or is it saying these two beasts, the Antichrist and the false prophet, and what they will do fulfills Satan's agenda? What they do will fulfill Satan's plan he's been at all along. They will finally have success, fulfill Satan's agenda, but in the end it will fail. But the wisdom of God is this. Let's go to Proverbs 1:7, just as a quick review here. Who's our reader? Oh, you got that, Mike?
Well, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction.
And just like we are not to fear, remember, we're told not to fear when a prophet is wrong. We don't fear false prophets. We don't fear man, but we fear God. As believers, we all have the choice, even now, to live victorious today in the power of God, or to fall short living in the power of even the greatest man, which that's the Antichrist. You could say he's the greatest man that ever lived, the most powerful man that ever lived, the most intelligent man even that ever lived. But once again, God offers, who then are those who fear the Lord? He will instruct them in the ways that they should choose. So we don't function in the wisdom of man. We function in the wisdom of God. They will spend their days in prosperity. Dan, would you read Psalm 25, 12 to 13? And Aaron, Psalm 32, 8 and 9.
Who then are those who fear the Lord? He will instruct them in the ways they should choose. They will spend their days in prosperity, and their descendants will inherit the land.
I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my loving eye on you. Do not be like the horse or the mule, which have no understanding, but must be controlled by bit and bridle, or they will not come to you.
Is that it? Yeah. So in the last verse there of chapter 13, it says, this calls for wisdom. Let the person who has insight calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of man, and that number is 666. That we do not function in the fear of man or in the wisdom of man. If we want to have victory and have it now, today, then we function in the wisdom of God. For then who are those that fear the Lord? He will instruct them in the ways they should choose, and they will spend their days in prosperity. So we don't have to fear what is coming, and we don't have to get distracted by it, and we don't have to even figure out all the minute details of it, because we can't. And we can have victory today if we function in the wisdom of God and the way that He's called us to. But we won't be able to do it in our own strength. All right, you guys have any questions about where we are in Revelation? Of what's happening? Y'all. We'll have another interlude next week that'll give us even a clearer picture of where we've been and the tribulation and where we're headed, even to the millennial kingdom. So we're going to stop here in chapter 14 and say, look back and look forward again. And so, which is helpful to me that it's set up like this, because it is complex, but we stop every now and then and get our bearings and understand what's going on. So that's where we'll be. That's where we'll be next week.